Guys, it's me. I'm back again. I'm here in Mumbai, India, and recently my friend and I, she and I had a chit chat about some things that have happened to me in the past. And one of the things that we spoke about is headless people. And anyways, she and I were talking about that. So I just thought I'd share with you guys about my experience as a child seeing people without heads. So I hope you enjoy, and thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.
Let's just start with a quick story about spirits. So the other day we were having a conversation about a spirit I saw years ago, and you were going to tell me, I was saying how some people are born seeing, but they don't remember because they shut it off so young, and some people weren't born seeing. And then you were going to tell me about a story.
Yeah. So when I was young, I grew up in San Francisco, and we sometimes we used to go down these alleys, like they're in downtown San Francisco. They have these certain alleyways. It's not dark, but it's not like well lit and all that kind of stuff. So we used to go down these alleys, and I used to see these people with jackets on and no head. So they didn't have heads. All the heads were cut off. And I used to walk and I used to tell my mom, I'm like, is that normal for people not to have heads? Like, I don't think she was paying attention to me. And she's like, yeah, yeah. And she just kind of said, yeah. So then all along, I said, okay, it's normal for people not to have heads, because I asked my mom and she said, yeah, yeah. But she wasn't listening to me. She was like, okay, whatever, this kid, yeah, yeah, whatever, let's go, And so I was like, okay, so it's normal that, these human beings don't have heads. And they used to have these jackets, but no head, or even not a jacket but no head. I just remember people with jackets and no heads, right? And then later on, I think a year later, I asked my mom, so these people without heads, like, is that like? And she looked, because I used to see people without heads all the time, and she looked at me, she's like, "What are you talking about? There are no people without heads." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And then all of a sudden, I stopped seeing people without heads. So what was that? Was I really seeing people without heads, or was it my imagination, or was their head tucked so inside that I couldn't see it, or what was the thing because I clearly remember so many times going down this, because my dad used to work in this area and we had to go down and go meet him, and there was kind of a like an alley where all I would see was all these people walking around without heads.
That explains so much to me about you, because I know, I see you're this amazing soul, you're this amazing being, and you seem to act like you don't have the gifts that I have, but I know you do because I feel it in you. And you just explained it. It's like, okay, so you were born with the sight, you were born with the knowing, but because of the way you were raised, you were kind of obedient, and when your mom said, no, there's no such thing, you said, oh, okay, well, my mom, said there's no such thing, so I'm going to believe her. And that was it. You stopped seeing it. So, and that's fine. That's why you're so drawn to people like me. That's why, because you already know that you're not like, oh my God, she's crazy. She sees things. She's schizophrenic. She's blah, blah. You're like, you believe it. You know that it's true. And so, yes, what you were seeing, and it's so funny it too that you're from San Francisco, because that is one of the places that I feel like, that the San Francisco Bay Area. I lived there for almost a year, and that felt like home, one of my homes. I have lots of homes around the planet, but like
Wow.
there in Peru is one of my homes. And anyway, that I just felt so at home there. And it's like, and you were raised there, and I would have to go and do a reading on what those heads were, but you were seeing spirits without heads. And what happens is, when certain people leave their human bodies, or we call it die, or pass on, some of them stay behind, their souls stay behind, right? For whatever there can be lots of different reasons, and I might do a video on that another time. But so for whatever reason, it's either a memory of them, or it's their actual soul that has stayed behind, and they still see themselves the way that they died. They still see them, so they're kind of trapped in between the physical world and the spiritual world. And they are probably no longer there because nobody gets trapped forever. There's no such thing. We all eventually move on after we have resolved whatever it is why we stay behind. So, oh my God, that's an amazing story. I got chills listening.
Why is it just only on this street, in this alley? I
Something may have happened in that area. And again, I would have to do a reading on it, but something may have happened where a lot of people were beheaded, and they were wearing heavy coats, right? They were wearing coats that, I
yeah.
mean, just seeing what you're saying, they were workers, they were labor workers, and something must have happened that they were either deliberately decapitated or something else happened.
Yeah.
And you were either seeing like a memory of it, like their energetic memory may have just still have been staying behind, or the soul may have still been, there, because a lot of souls get trapped if they die from trauma. So
Wow. Wow.
that's amazing.
It was really kind of weird for me because I'm like, only this, whenever I'd go, I was like, okay, I'm going to see these people without heads. And sure enough, I'd see all these people without heads. And when
That's
I left that
amazing.
area, there will be
Yeah.
no one without heads. And so every time I go there, there'll be people without heads. And I just thought it was normal. This is the alleyway where I see people without heads. And they'll be just walking around doing their own stuff, like, with a scarf on and jacket on. And I, for some reason, remember them always being like with a jacket on, and that's what I think I
Mhm.
remember. Yeah. So yeah,
Wow.
very interesting. So yeah, that was the only kind of weird experience that I had seeing people without heads.
That's huge. That's a huge memory. Now, since your third eye has been open, as time goes by, you might have more memories. You might remember, oh my gosh, I remember this, things that you've slowly shut down or you've forgotten. You might start to remember, like, wow, and you'll be in touch with, I really did have this ability when I was little before I knew that this world didn't accept that, you know?
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, I think I was
So,
very obedient. My mom said, no, that doesn't exist. I'm like, and as soon as she said that, I stopped seeing that.
yeah.
As soon as she says, what do you like? She looked at me like, what are you crazy? What are you talking about? And she was like, and I was like, okay, like I didn't see them any longer. Yeah. So,
And see, that also shows how you protected yourself. You
yeah.
know, that was your higher self way of saying, okay, we're going to end this so that we don't get in trouble, you know?
Right, right, right. Yeah.
So, and that's still going on today. You are protected. If you're afraid that you're going to start to see spirits, well, you're protected. You'll see them if you want to, or if you get to a place where you're not afraid of it anymore, you might start to. But you already have proven to yourself that you don't have to, that you're going to be safe from seeing the things that you don't want to see.
Right, right. Because I stopped seeing them and I didn't want to see them. So yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like
So,
interesting that you that's something that always kind of I was like, what was that? What was that? Why was I seeing all these people without heads? But that's good that you kind of validated that and said that actually something probably happened in
oh,
the alleyway.
it just makes sense. Like, it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, and hopefully you'll take that and validate that within yourself and say, okay, yeah, every time I say, oh, you're just as beautiful, and you have all these gifts too, and you just remember, oh yeah, I do. And a lot of times these things that we've experienced in the past, when we remember them, it's for a reason. And sometimes, a lot of times, it's as a gift. It's like, oh, here's a gift. Since you're doubting yourself, let me remind you of
Yeah,
why you don't have to doubt yourself if you don't want to.
yeah.
You can if you want to, but if you're tired of doubting yourself, and then here's a
Amazing.
gift.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. That's really good. I'm happy that I shared that with you.
Yeah, me too.